I'm Clay Aiken, and you might wonder what qualifies me to run for Congress. So I want you to know why I'm running and what I want to do for the people of the 2nd District. For my entire life, I've admired individuals who pursued politics to be true public servants. North Carolina has a long history of committed leaders from both parties, Terry Sanford, Howard Coble, Sam Ervin, Jim Hunt, who've been committed to working together despite ideological differences to make life better for the people they were elected to serve. Unfortunately, we have too many politicians and too few public servants these days. Our representatives are losing sight of why the people sent them to Washington and who they're supposed to be representing. Congressmen and women should first and foremost be advocates for the people they serve. For my entire adult life, I've tried to advocate for those who are too often overlooked. I worked as a YMCA counselor, and then after high school, I worked in a special education classroom for students with autism. That experience showed me the difference that a person can make in someone's life. After speaking on American Idol about my desire to serve children with disabilities, people from across the country began sending checks made out to the Clay Aiken Foundation, something that didn't even exist. While I planned on sending them back, within a short 2 months we had $50,000 in checks, and it was then that I realized for the first time how powerful the microphone I had been given could be, and that I could use that microphone not just for singing, but for speaking up for those who couldn't speak up for themselves. That $50,000 went toward the founding of the National Inclusion Project and was turned into millions of dollars that have served children through programs in over 35 states, providing opportunities for children with disabilities to be included in all life has to offer. I had an opportunity to use that same microphone to speak up on behalf of children in developing countries through my role as an ambassador for UNICEF. Visiting children and programs in countries like Afghanistan and Indonesia, Uganda and Somalia gave me insight into the hardships that people face and how those committed to making a difference truly can change lives. You, my friends and family and neighbors here in North Carolina, each played an enormous role 11 years ago in giving me a chance to use my voice to be an advocate for the ignored and forgotten. These days, our representatives are too often guilty of going to Washington and forgetting about the people who sent them there. We need a representative who will advocate for us, and I'll be that kind of representative. I'll be a representative who will advocate for our military and their families and our veterans. Unemployment for veterans is 4 points higher than it is for the civilian population. And while proposals have been made to incentivize employers with tax credits for every veteran they hire, the inability of our Congress to work together across the aisle has prevented potentially bipartisan solutions from moving forward to improve lives of those who've dedicated and risked their lives for us. We can't continue to let partisan sniping and fighting keep us from protecting those who protected us. I'll be a representative who'll advocate for working men and women by fighting to increase the minimum wage to a level at which someone who works full-time doesn't have to struggle to put food on the table. And I'll fight to return the Earned Income Tax Credit, a bipartisan policy originally implemented by President Reagan, to a level that incentivizes work, lifts hard-working Americans and North Carolinians out of poverty, and increases the number of consumers in our local economy. I'll be a representative who'll advocate for workers who are tired of losing their employment and seeing work shipped overseas by companies who take advantage of tax breaks for moving jobs offshores. I'll fight for a fair tax code that will end loopholes that allow the wealthiest Americans to pay taxes at levels lower than our current middle class. I'll be a representative who advocates for our students by telling the federal government to get out of our classrooms and stop over-testing kids with tests that don't accurately measure their success nor prepare them for the experience they'll need when they're looking for jobs. And I'll fight to reduce the cost of higher education for our young people and our adults who are training for new jobs in a changing workforce by fighting to keep the federal government from profiting $12 billion a year off the backs of students taking out student loans. And finally, I'll be a representative who advocates for all the people in the 2nd District by working to make politics about public service again. If we're going to get Americans working again, we have to get politicians working together. And this culture of blaming the other side for our problems while not working to find solutions of our own has to end. My mother always told me to use my voice, and I always have. But a voice should not only be used for singing. Our voices are most powerful when they're used to speak up and make a positive difference. And I want to use mine to speak up for the people of North Carolina and the state that I love. And that's why I'm running for Congress. And that's why I ask you to use your voice and vote on May 6th. Thank you, and God bless.